All right, moving on to the 3 key features area. You need to add 3 divs as direct children to the section's container. So, of course, we have div blocks 1. Oh, this thing just takes time. And I'm going to make that there. Notice it became a child, so I want to make sure they're not children. I might as well just add them in the thing here. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Give each div the same class. So I'm going to call this columns. I'll call it 2 just in case, right? Oh, man, I hate that when you hit tab. It doesn't. You have to hit enter. I called it columns. Let's make sure I call it columns 2 just in case. Div block, columns 2, div block, columns 2. There we go. So I've got 3 columns in there. I need to make them into columns. Your container class is going to need a combo class. Make it so the columns next to each other. And then change the containers display types and the child's widths. So again, you're going to need to make them go next to each other, right? So this container, I'm going to take this and I'm going to call this row 2. Okay, and so now this is a row, so I want to turn it into Flexbox, right? Because that's how we make things go next to each other. Flexbox! And so I have these now here. Could I do grow or anything like that? I don't see those properties here. So what we're going to do is make our columns 2 have a width, and there's 3 columns, right? So the math on that is it needs to be 33.33%, right? Width. And so how's our columns doing here? Where is our columns? There's 1 column, there's 2 columns, there's 3 columns. Why don't I see a line between those? But it is indeed a line there, because I can see where the little thing is going here. Just visually. Oh, there's no height. I think that's what happened. We have a collapse of height going on. So for each child div, add a header and some short or text, right? And then we're going to have to add 10 padding to the left and right side of your child's div. So let's make, we're going to have to go in and with our heading, can I get it in there? No, I'm going to make sure it goes in there. And this should get us some height to start working with things. There we go. Heading, and right, I should make that an H2 because this is an H1, right? And I want this to be an H2. And I also need a paragraph of text, and so we'll get it. Are you in columns? There you are. You're in the right spot. Great, wonderful, grand. We need to repeat it 2 more times. 2 more times. Yeah, I'm super going crazy being at home, so don't mind me while I just do this stuff here. This is just, oh man, I forgot to make it H2 on the other one, didn't I? I'm gonna go back. Make it H2. Wonderful. And I'm sure you should be watching this on speed up at this point. Okay, there we got ourselves some things, and we need 10 pixels of padding on the left and right side. And since we have our thing, we have padding. So I'm going to hold down the Option key and drag it till I get to 10. There we go, and they should all have it, right? Because, ooh, no, they shouldn't, because I screwed up. Because I put it on the paragraph. So I need to make sure I grab the columns. That's my dog chewing on something, right? And so there's some nice little padding there to keep things a little spacious. What's next on our list? By default, Webflow adds 10 pixels of margin bottom to a header. Remove that to tighten up the area. Okay, so here's our thing, and look, it has by default this 10 thing. So I'm going to go ahead and change that to 0. Tighten up our area. Now here's a problem. This has taken on a thing here. So what we want to do is make sure that we're just working on the H2s, I think. So can we actually just say H2, because we knew these were H2, all H2 headings. Now watch, when I do this, it'll affect all of them. What? There it goes. So let's see, by default, okay, find 3 icons on flat icon, add SVGs above your text, make their width 100%, add a class of icon, make sure it is not a class of icon because the hamburger thing is using that. Okay, totally. All right, so I hate the Mac touch bar because I just closed the video accidentally. So we were gonna add icons, and here they are over here. And here I have these icons, so I'm gonna make sure they're in my columns above the thing here. And so I'm going to make a, since it's coming in right here like this, I'm actually not going to set it right here. I'm going to do them all at once. So let me grab 3 of these icons, and I'll just use the same icon because I am super lazy, but obviously you should use, you should still be trying to make this like a cool thing here. So this got in the wrong spot, so let's just make sure you're in the right spot. There you are. And so I'm going to give these a thing, and I'm going to call this, I don't know, sketch icon. And I'll take this one and make sure it gets the same class. Take this one, make sure it gets the same class. Okay, and let's give this a width of 100 pixels. Huh, that's great. By default, well, let's use 20 pixels. By default, oh, I missed a whole thing here, didn't I? That's okay. Add a margin of 20 pixels on the images, right? So once again, I just go ahead and add 20 pixels to the images. That gives us a little space. Down here on paragraph, I had said something about maybe it adding something and changing that. We can totally ignore that one. Make it so the icon and text are aligned in the center. So that's super simple, right? We can easily go ahead and we could set each one of these to like margin auto, but we want the text to have a text align of center. We'll just grab the columns and we'll go to the typography and go to text align center, and that will go ahead and center things for us right there. Now we need to make it so 3 columns layout is 1 column stacked. Go to iPhone large size and see if it already does it. Webflow may, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so what am I going to? I'm going to phone large. So this is, they changed the name. This is phone large, right? Phone large, and they didn't have it doing it. So we actually have to set this ourselves. I think it's if you type a class of Flex, it does it itself. I was testing this when I was writing this. So we need to change that. So how do we do that? So we need to go back to our, because now we're in this context of phone large. So we go back to our container, and now we need to change our flex direction, right? And we'll just change it to, I think, vertical, right? And we will change our widths then of columns 2 to 100%. There we go. And now what's next? Left align everything inside. So again, I have columns 2. I'm just going to go ahead and undo our align center, right? So again, it's still going to stay this way till we get to here. And give the child divs 20 pixels of padding left and right, because again, this is a little close in this context. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm still in columns 2, and I'm going to hold option to get these both, 20, close enough to 20, close enough to 20. And now we'll, what else? Make the icon 65 pixels at this size. So we have this class on there, so it's as simple as just going in and changing that. Make the icons layout to the left of the text. Note there are 2 ways to do this. One involves in creating a div in the text area and using display sections. A much easier way is using a CSS property on the images. So what I'm talking about there is float is the easiest way. So if I go ahead and float it to the left, you'll see now the text wraps around this way. And it would be good to put some, and I think I probably have it in there, to put some margin right then on these images. So I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of space there so that they're separated. That's one way to do it. If you wanted to, you could have, with this float here, I could have added, and I'm just going to show you another way of doing this. I will put this, this div block here, and I'm going to put the heading inside the div block. Oh, come on. If I can, there we go. And the paragraph also inside, but not on top. There we go. So now we have this div block here. And And so what we would really need to do is we could turn, there's two things we could do here. Instead of floating this, I'm just going to temporarily turn this float off. I will go to this, I will take columns and I'll also make it, it's a flex child, but we can also make it a flex parent. And so now you see the way that this went right next to each other. And then all I would have to do is set the alignment so that, here's the sizing and stuff. Set the alignment, here it is right here, eh? Align there. So that's how I would do that to make it with Flexbox. Really, those are the two ways to do it. I think there's a third way with float and margin. So let's actually explore that real quick. Let's actually just hit Command Z. Command Z, back to here. Let's get them floating again. They're floating. So now if I actually I still have this div now around the heading and paragraph note. So there's two children here. And I'm going to take that, I'm going to make the margin left on this div, whoops, not negative, right? Enough to get past the float. See how that's working there? So like 86 pixels, right? So those are the three ways that you could possibly do that. I want you to be aware of those. You obviously only have to implement one, but it's nice to know. Add a box model property to make the text not abut the icon. That was the margin right that I just talked about. And add 20 pixels of margin bottom only to the last div, right? So only the last column div. So that's as simple as using a combo class, right? So last column and giving that one, whoops, however much bottom pixels. And that's it. That is the features area completely done.